It's time, Fort Wayne. Your sports, your station. It's the Sports Rush with Brett Rump.
Max Landis.
Covering all the topics that hit a nerve here in the Summit City.
Clark, 11 yards, touchdown.
Only on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Now here's your host, Brett Rump.
The greatest, most interesting, most important person of all time.
You are incredible. Over the boy.
Yeah, well, you're half right.
What is this, amateur hour?
This is going to be huge. I believe this is going to be our final sound.
Just when I think you said the stupidest thing ever, you keep talking.
I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard.
That boy ain't right.
The simplest way to put it, I have problems.
Welcome to the alleged show.
It is time to go home on a Tuesday. It is 2 down, 3 to go with this work week, and this is the Sports Rush, your daily local sports fix, 4 to 6. Brett Rump with Adam Lundy, and we've got you connected on our Parkview Sports Medicine text line at 260-447-8500. The wheels are rolling down the highway for Mastodons basketball. They are on a road trip this week. I will be here all week as John Nolan has found the third row of the bus on the left, and he has taken my spot as the Dons cruise to Youngstown, Ohio. They'll take on the Youngstown State Penguins in what? The Ice Age Bowl, or so, what do you call it, Adam?
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. Something, anything related to, the polar.
Yeah, with the Mastodons and the Penguins.
Two very cold weather animals. So I like
Mastodons would just stomp on a penguin.
You would think if we're actually doing, the mascot matchup, I do think the Don would win.
Yeah, we have to have that matchup because these are two critical games for the Mastodons this week on the road as they take on the two teams that are currently both one game behind them in the standings as the Dons go into this week holding on to second place. Now, we were talking about the standings. One thing to point out with the standings in the Horizon League is the critical stage is, there's like 3 steps. When you get to the postseason, number one, if you can get into the top 4, that's premium. That's where you really want to be because that means you will host a quarterfinal game in the tournament. If you get in the top 5, it means you eliminate one round of having to win a game and you save your legs. So top 4, get buys, get buys and a home game. Top 5, get a bye, and the 5th place team has to go on the road to play at number 4. And so, one thing you want to look at is where the Dons at as far as their security of being in the top 5 seeds. And right now, the 6th place team would be Oakland. They're 7-7.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mastodons still have a head-to-head game against Oakland. Oakland beat the Mastodons up at Oakland as the Dons played without Eric Mulder that night. But Oakland is 3.5 games behind Purdue-Fort Wayne right now. So you have to feel like that's a pretty decent cushion with 5 or 6 games still left on the Horizon League schedule to be up by 3.5. So, it looks like the Dons probably have taken care of top 5. Now it's about getting the best seed possible, and that's why this week will be critical if the Dons, because the Dons can create some separation between themselves and third place if they can beat both Robert Morris and Youngstown State, because all of a sudden they'll have 2 game leads over both of them, and they will also have a game and a half over Milwaukee, regardless of what Milwaukee does this week. And the Dons have the tiebreaker against Milwaukee because they have beaten the Panthers twice already.
It's good to have those tiebreakers. It really is.
Yeah, got that in the pocket. So anyway, that's why this road trip is so critical. But perhaps it's even a bigger week for Mastodons women's basketball. They're locked into a 3-way race for first place, and in that battle, you've got the Mastodons, who are undefeated in the league. You've got Green Bay, who has only 1 loss, and that came at the hands of Purdue-Fort Wayne back in December. And then you've got Cleveland State, who lost to Green Bay and lost to Purdue-Fort Wayne and has one extra loss, so they'll come into town with 3 conference losses, but they still have hopes with games against both Purdue-Fort Wayne and Green Bay on their schedule that they can maybe get some head-to-head wins and perhaps the chips will fall in their favor. So it's a 3-team, and there's nobody else that's even close. I mean, it's 3 teams, and then the rest of the field is like almost totally out of distance on the rearview mirror. And so this will be huge. And getting that top seed on the women's side could be crucial as far as trying to advance to the NCAA tournament. And the reason is, as we just said with the men's bracket, it's the same type of seeding for the women. So you've got 11 teams. You've got 4 teams that will get first-round byes and host a second-round game. The Mastodons are definitely hosting a second-round game. They've already locked that up. In fact, they did that over a week ago. But to have the top seed, that would mean you'd match up against whoever is the lowest remaining seed should Cleveland State and Green Bay advance, and you'd expect both of them to advance through a quarterfinal. And that would force Green Bay and Cleveland State to have to meet in one of the semifinal games. Now, if you remember, the last couple of years, the Mastodons have been the team that hasn't been in that position. And so what they've had is 2 years in a row where they had to have a semifinal against Green Bay. And they lost both games, even though they were both close. So getting number 1 means you get to play one of the teams that's in the bottom half of the standings, really. I mean, even though it's 4th place, you're looking at a team that doesn't have above a 500 record because, you know, you've got 3 teams that have been so good. Everybody else has kind of been beating up on each other. And so you've got the first place team, the Mastodons, 15-0. The 4th place team right now is actually sub 500, 6-8. And there's Oakland, Northern Kentucky, and Detroit Mercy all 6-8, and Robert Morris 6-9. And the Mastodons have all had very convincing wins against all of those opponents. Robert Morris was a little bit close, but that was at Robert Morris. And so getting the number 1 seed is going to be huge in this tournament because you avoid a semifinal of playing against Green Bay or Cleveland State. So big week because they can do a lot toward getting there by winning this game. Because here's the thing. If they can beat Cleveland State at home this Saturday, and then when Cleveland State plays Green Bay head-to-head, you get a Cleveland State victory. Then the Mastodons would be 2 games ahead of everybody in the league, and they'd only have 1 game head-to-head against Green Bay at the end of the season, and it wouldn't matter. Wouldn't matter.
Man, that'd be great. Yeah, got to handle business this week.
So, we got it all broken down. All right, right now is the time for you to give us a call if you'd like to be our contestant on Tuesday Time Capsule Trivia. We're going to go to the phones and take caller number 2 at 260-447-8500. Caller number 2 at 260-447-8500. Just for calling in and being today's contestant, you will get a large pizza to Pizza Hut. That is our destination every Friday night after our high school basketball coverage. Coming up tomorrow, or coming up on Friday, we've got high school basketball from Leo High School, as we'll have the Columbia City Eagles visiting the Leo Lions. It's a big NE8 battle. And after the game, you can join us at the Pizza Hut on East DuPont Boulevard, East DuPont Avenue, East DuPont.
Yeah, over by Tonkel.
Yep, and we'll be there after the game up until 10:30. Scores, highlights, coaches' interviews, and more. But always a great way to wrap up a Friday night of high school basketball or high school football in the fall, the Pizza Hut of Fort Wayne. All right, so we are ready. We've got a contestant ready to play Tuesday Time Capsule Trivia and end my winning streak, which, hey, I'll tell you what, the Mastodons women's team, they've won 17 in a row. I don't know if they've got anything on me, man.
They might.
Yeah, they might. But let's see if we can get a new streak going. Let's get to the phone line and see who today's contestant is going to be. Who's this?
This is Marty.
Hey, Marty, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Yourself?
I'm good, and you're a repeat player in our Tuesday Time Capsule Trivia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he said it's been about a year.
Really? It's been that long?
We wound up tying.
Oh, it was one of those draws.
Yeah, the draw.
We'll see if we can make something else happen today.
Marty has been invited to come back and play and try to break the tie.
Let's do it.
You ready, Marty?
I'm ready.
Here we go.
It's time for Tuesday Time Capsule Trivia on the Sports Rush.
All right. Clue number 1. We're starting with soccer today. On August 31st of this year, Boca Juniors of Argentina won the Recopa Sudamerica 4-3 on aggregate over Once Caldas.
Did you take Spanish?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's the only reason you were able to get through that clue. Marty, it's your choice to either give it a stab or pass it to me.
I'll give it a stab. How about 2001?
Brett.
I'll say 2008.
All right, going on to clue number 2. May 7th of this year, Diego Corrales defeats Jose Luis Castillo by 10th round knockout for the WBO WBC lightweight title unification.
Now, wait, is your Spanish teacher listening to the show today?
She might be.
Because you're trying to impress somebody with all of your Spanish.
Diego.
All right, so I have no clue.
Again, I'll give it to you one more time. Diego Corrales defeats Jose Luis Castillo by 10th round knockout.
Again, that doesn't get me any closer, but it does impress your Spanish teacher. I will say, I'll stick in the 2000s just because I don't know any better. I'll say 2005.
You got it. It's 2005.
Oh, Marty, I got to be honest. I had no clue. None.
Yeah,
I just threw out, because we had 2001, we had 2008. I just split the difference and threw out 2005 and got lucky.
Yeah.
Well, we can see.
Better lucky than good.
Well, it's better than kissing your sister and ending up in a tie. So, Marty, you know what? Even though you are the recipient of some bad luck today, we're still going to get you fixed up with that large pizza to Pizza Hut. So stay on the line. Don't hang up. We're going to have to put you on hold here for a couple of minutes, but Adam will be back with you to get the information we need to get you your large pizza. Appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you.
Adam?
Yeah, what the heck, man?
I got lucky.
Yeah, you did. I'll give you a couple more.
I wonder if any of our listeners had any idea.
No. I'll give you the next one. This one probably would have not narrowed it down either just because he won so many, but this year's Tour de France was won by Lance Armstrong, his record-setting 7th consecutive title.
Well, I will say, though, it would have told us we were in the neighborhood.
Yep.
I might not have gotten the year like, I know that one, because the year he won it when Diego Castillo something. So what else do we have? Yeah,
a couple more here for you. The Super Bowl for the previous year's season, the Patriots won 24-21 over the Eagles. Your MVP was Deion Branch, wide receiver. And the White Sox sweep the Astros 4-0 to win the World Series for the first time since 1917. Top song this year, We Belong Together by Mariah Carey.
Yeah, I got lucky.
You did get lucky.
Because I don't know that I'd have gotten it based on the clues. I'd have been... all of those clues, because sometimes you give me a clue and I just know it, right? We would have gone through all 5 clues and I'd have just been working around the neighborhood.
Somebody texted in 260-447-8500. They say, I'm a boxing fan, so I knew Brett Rump was in the ballpark.
Yeah, ballpark. But, we don't play horseshoes here.
Nope, got to get the year.
You got to get the year exact, and I did get lucky, I will say.
But the streak continues.
The streak continues. Look out, Maria. I'm coming after that 17-game streak you've got.
Oh, geez.
Oh, man.
We had seen that the Pacers were perhaps signing Alex Len out of free agency. He is going to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, that collapsed. Apparently, the agent, he must have been tipped off on the whole
Mark Williams
deal and realized there might be a better chance and they pulled back on what was, I guess, only a verbal commitment because, it was kind of reported that he was signing with the Pacers.
Yeah, must not have been in ink because he's going to L.A. He'll join Luka and
he'll have a chance to be a backup big out in Los Angeles.
There you go.
Because of the situation with Mark Williams being sent back to Charlotte. All right, so tonight, Pacers, Knicks. We do not have the coverage, but it is a TNT game. It's one of the rare national televised games for the Indiana Pacers. But tonight we do have the Purdue Boilermakers taking on the Michigan Wolverines. That will be joined at 7 p.m. for the tip-off from Ann Arbor. And then later tonight, if you'd like to listen to the Indiana Hoosiers and the Michigan State Spartans, you can catch that starting with an 8 o'clock pregame on our sister station, WOWO Radio 92.3 FM. WOWO 92.3, your home for the Hoosiers all season long. We will take a break, and when we come back on the other side, we'll talk to Snider Girls basketball coach Reggie Tharp about what it took to get the sectional championship and extend the streak to 4 years in a row, and what's ahead with the regional. That's all coming up next on the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. We will be talking to Homestead Lady Spartans coach Rod Parker coming up in just minutes, but we start our back-to-backs with sectional championship coaches, with Snider coach Reggie Tharp joining us right now on the Sports Rush as Snider got the victory, came from behind and beat Northrop at Northrop 48-37. Lockdown defense, did not allow a field goal in the fourth quarter, and very impressive performance. Now they go where they started the season against McCutcheon, although this time they'll play in Marion for the Class 4A regional title. And that game will be a 4 o'clock tip coming up on Saturday. And first of all, Coach, appreciate you taking time to join the show. And congratulations. This makes it 4 in a row for Snider.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Brett. Thanks for having me. It's definitely quite an accomplishment. It's extremely hard to win a sectional title each year. And we've been fortunate enough to do it 4 years in a row with great players and a great coaching staff.
Well, and you get plenty of credit for that. 3 years at the school, 3 sectional championships. All you know to do is prepare for a regional. But there were times that maybe you doubted that this would be the year that you'd be doing that, because you scheduled a lineup of games from late December into really almost mid to late January that was just grueling. I mean, it might have been one of the toughest schedules in the state during that stretch, and you ended up losing 5 of 6. You lost 4 in a row at one point, but sometimes those are the things you look back on during the regular season where you take your lumps, where it makes you a better team so you're prepared for this type of situation. How did your girls respond to that stretch of the schedule?
Well, it was extremely rough. As you know, we've lost 4 out of our 5 starters, with 2 Division I players, 1 Division II player, and 1 playing Division I college volleyball with Tia. So everybody was thrusted into a new role this year that they haven't been in, and that took the bulk of the season, trying to get them, acclimated with being able to carry that load, carry that weight, carry that responsibility. And we went through tough stretches. Like, we went through stretches where we doubted ourselves. We didn't trust teammates. We didn't trust the coaching staff and the scout. And, at the end of the year with the final game with Carroll, I just went in with that weekend and that mindset of preparation, like, hey, we're going to switch things up a little bit. It's going to be competition again. I told him I didn't know who was going to start against Carroll in sectionals. And, it turned out we had one of our best weeks of practice and preparation, and all of that prepared us for Northrop and winning the sectional title last night.
You've got a star freshman who a lot of colleges are already taking a good close look at, Janaea Cooper, but she is a freshman, and it's somebody that's going to get out, make some mistakes, and have to learn and develop along the way. What have you seen from Janaea as far as her development from game 1 to this point in the season?
The great thing about Janaea, with her being extremely talented, is she's very coachable, and she wants to learn. That's the biggest thing. We went through our ups and downs where she's thrusted in this position as a freshman. Mind you, she's only 14 years old, and she's bearing the weight of carrying the weight of scoring, being our best scorer, being our best rebounder, having to carry the team, and she's just doing a lot of things that she normally, hasn't had to do in the past. And, just catching up with, terminology and, our concepts and what we want to do. I think she's finally getting comfortable at the one specific spot that we put her in, and things are becoming more and more easier for her. Obviously, with freshmen, you're going to take your lumps and your growing pains because they haven't been through it like the others have. But she's extremely talented. She's very coachable, and that's one of the reasons why all these colleges want her. Not just because she's a great player, great athlete, but her attitude and personality, and she's a great teammate as well.
I always feel like teams that have success in the postseason have great leadership, and I don't know and have a sense for where your leadership comes from, that whether it's coaching from within or accountability or someone who kind of, is that calming force or the motivational force. Where's that come from with your group?
Well, it comes from me somewhat, but we rely on Sanaya Salmon. Like, Sanaya's really been the voice of the team all year. She's been the backbone of the team. She communicates well in practice. When things go wrong, we lean on her a lot. She's been helping underclassmen out the entire year. And right now, like with us switching up basically our style of play, in this postseason, she's been a focal point, and she's been producing. Against Carroll, she ended up with 21 points. And then last night she played a better game than she did Carroll just because of the way she rebounded the ball. She had 16 points and 11 rebounds. So, we depend on her a lot, especially in our defense. She's the back line, and she talks, and she communicates, and she gets people in the right spot. So, other than myself, I would say Sanaya really is the voice and has command of the locker room.
I know I said earlier that, the old days of having an all-sectional team and a sectional MVP, those days are kind of done. But I think if there was one, she'd be the one I'd call the MVP. She was terrific in your semifinal and championship win.
No, absolutely. She did everything for us. And it's one of those senior desperation things. She didn't want it to be her last game. And, she just stepped all the way up. She competed every second she was out there on the floor. She gave everything she had, and I know you saw and everybody else saw she was extremely gassed. So, that lets me know that she's out there working hard. And, I couldn't take her out in some moments, but I found a couple places where we got her a breather and got her back in. But, kudos to her. Like, it's just she got, kind of lost in the shuffle her first 2 years of high school, came to us, just worked her butt off, great teammate, great communicator. And now look what these things are, what are transpiring from what she's done. Like, she's just been awesome to have and great to coach.
Courageous move in a game that basically is your season is riding on in that semifinal because Janaea gets a couple of early fouls. She sat the rest of the half. Was that a tough decision as coach?
No, not at all. What I was doing was if Carroll was to make a run, I was going to put her back in. But I wrote it out. And my thought process, Brett, was I was going to play it as long as I could. And if Carroll made a run, even if they took a 1-point lead, I was planning on putting Janaea back in. But our lead actually stretched with her on the bench, which I, complimented the team on, like, stepping up when we didn't, have her in the game. And, like I said, she's a freshman. Sometimes she makes silly fouls. So I didn't want to risk her getting a third foul in the first half.
Well, you mentioned it. A somewhat inexperienced team started the season this year against the team you're going to face in regional. How much does what happened in that opening game against McCutcheon where you lost by 2, how much does that play into this meeting coming up Saturday?
Well, I'm going to spin it as, a confidence builder, Brett, because at one point, we were up 18-20 in that game. And our inexperience showed its ugly head in the second half. Like, Janaea really hadn't identified herself as the main focal point on the team yet. And, we were taking some bad shots and weren't getting back on defense and weren't communicating, just had a horrible second half and still ended up with a chance to win it, And turnovers reared its, that's been our problem this year's turnovers, and it just reared its ugly head in that game. So right now, with us playing the type of basketball that we're playing, I'm extremely confident, that we can go in there and get a win, especially if we continue to do the things that, if they continue to do things that we're asking them to do. We're really confident and feel that we can go in there and compete Saturday afternoon.
What do you feel like, or how do you feel about the sectional, or about the tournament, I guess, the format of it? You've been around long enough to remember all the days of the morning session and the nighttime championship in the regional. To me, that was always my favorite part of the entire state tournament. They've taken that away, and it's a one-game regional. Does it matter to you as a coach, or do you prefer a certain way over another?
It really doesn't matter to me. I'm old school. Either you're going to play the 2 games and win it in regional, or you're going to play the 2 games and win it in semi-state. I'm just a big fan of, play who you got to play and win the games to get there. Now, we did talk about possibly having it a one-day thing like the other states instead of playing 2 games, just to get the best from each team and not having, some teams are more deeper than others, and that may be an advantage when you get to that night game. But me personally, I'm old school. I'll play anywhere, anytime. It doesn't really bother me.
Well, congratulations, 4 in a row in the into the regional for the Snider Panthers, and you've got McCutcheon coming up at Marion. It'll start the doubleheader there, 4 o'clock, and I hope a lot of the Panthers fans make it to Marion to cheer on the Lady Snider Panthers this Saturday, and appreciate you jumping on.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, that's Coach Tharp, Reggie Tharp, Concordia fella.
Had to get that in there.
Yeah, I had to mention that. 56-19 now in his 3rd year at Snider and his 3rd consecutive sectional championship. So congratulations to Snider. Had the upset win over Northrop to take the Northrop sectional last night. All right, so we'll take a break. We're going to continue with this theme because coming up on the other side, we've got a Homestead Lady Spartans team to talk about with Rod Parker, longtime coach. He has been at Homestead since Adam was, before you were in diapers. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's been a while. But we'll talk to Rod Parker about this year's edition of the Spartans. Still, what I think is a somewhat young team, but they've played well ahead of their age in the last couple of seasons, and now they've got the test of all tests. They'll take on Hamilton Southeastern at 7 o'clock, and the Royals undefeated at 25-0. We'll talk about the win over Huntington North, about the development of this team, and what to expect Saturday when we talk to the coach, Rod Parker. Coming up next, it's the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Couple of the area sectionals in girls basketball got delayed. They didn't get played on Saturday night for the championship. They were played yesterday, but as we just heard, Snider got the victory over Northrop, and they'll advance into the regional Saturday at Marion. Also heading to Marion to play the 7 o'clock game. The Homestead Lady Spartans improved to 24-2. And they're under their 24th year coach, Rod Parker, who has now had 449 wins in his coaching career. And he'll look for one more on Saturday, but it's going to be a challenge because it would be the only loss of the season for Hamilton Southeastern should Homestead get the job done. But let's talk about what they accomplished in the sectional. And first of all, Coach, congratulations. I know you never want to take it for granted, but congratulations. You are heading on to regional as expected.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. And, you said it. We play games for a reason, and I thought my girls had great energy this past weekend and played a couple of really nice games to get themselves in position to play next weekend.
Was it a classic situation in this sectional where you had to coach and encourage play to your potential and almost ignore who you were playing or the scoreboard situation?
Well, I think that's an important piece to how we approach most every game this year. Was really working to play to our potential so that when we got into the sectional game last weekend, it was kind of similar mindset to what we have had. Obviously, the challenge I thought last night was with Huntington North was really just being able to control the tempo because we kind of played different styles of basketball. And so that was kind of in the back of our mind in our game prep. But we got out to the start we needed, got ahead, and kind of were able to control the tempo and force them to speed up a little bit.
What with this team, it's still somewhat a young team, but it's an experienced team that's played some of the state's best. Where has it developed, not only in this season, but from prior seasons?
Well, experience is obviously a big thing. And last year, my current junior class last year gained a lot of experience as sophomores. But I think competitive maturity is something that we talk a lot about, time and situation, valuing possessions, maybe learning how to win basketball games a little bit more efficiently than we did last year. Even though we did have a nice season last year, we allowed teams, I think, just to hang around with us a little bit too long, if that makes sense. So that's a big thing we've really focused on this year, and I think we're continually getting better defensively. And, we have a lot of weapons on the offensive end of the court. And so I thought we've done a very nice job this year, really sharing the basketball.
Where is your biggest concern with this group? Because you've got so many players that can score, players that can score in one-on-one situations, players that can knock down open jumpers. But you mentioned defense. Statistically, you've been really good defensively this year. But where's the one area, if there's a concern for Rod Parker, that you want to really stress and make sure it's priority for your young ladies to pay attention to? Where does that come?
Well, we've had to work really hard to try and become a versatile defensive basketball team this year. We're not very big, but we're athletic, we're smart. Our guards are good size for guards in girls basketball. So, we're always worried about protecting the paint. Rebounding has been a really big emphasis this year because without being the biggest team, last year we did get beat a couple games on the board. So that's something we really emphasize, is protecting that paint, rebounding the basketball, and really trying to force teams into difficult shots. And so, I guess the big thing, to your point, is we've got to make sure we rebound the basketball very well. And offensively, we just got to make sure that we take good shots for our team. And we use a term that, we just can't settle sometimes, or we can get hurried up and we maybe take a shot that we know a player can make, but it just wasn't our best shot that possession. So that also, I think, circles back to the competitive maturity of this year over last.
You've played a very difficult schedule in the last couple of seasons. How's that made you a better basketball team?
Well, it definitely makes you a better basketball team. Whenever you can play in big games, like this coming Saturday, the kids are extremely excited for it. You get used to the speed of it. You get used to the physicality of those types of games. You get used to the crowds. So, our schedule, I think, has been built to play a variety of different basketball teams throughout the last several years. So, that when we go into opportunities, regionals, or if we can advance farther even than this Saturday, that we've had teams on our schedule similar to who we're going to be playing in the tournament.
25 have entered, 25 have left with a loss against Hamilton Southeastern. It's a really good basketball team. Did you actually scrimmage them? Do you have some familiarity with them?
We played them last summer in the Charlie Hughes event down in Indianapolis. And, it's summer, so it's different. But it was a great summer basketball game. It was very competitive. We were both playing a lot of kids. But we're very familiar with them from that experience. I've watched them several times play. They're very talented, as you mentioned, 25-0, and I mean they just play a great schedule. Where they're situated in Indianapolis, and with their conference, there are no week games. That they're kind of obligated to play. So they're very battle tested. They're very experienced with some really good seniors and experienced guards. So it's going to be a great game. We're excited to have the opportunity to play.
Well, it should be a lot of fun, and congratulations again on getting the 7th consecutive sectional championship. And by the way, that's a mark I cannot find anyone else in the SAC that has matched that. So 7 straight may just sit all alone as the best in the Summit Athletic Conference. I don't know. Did anybody ever tell you any differently? Because if they haven't, we're going to just go ahead and go with that.
I don't know differently. In fact, last night somebody asked me, how many we won in a row or out of the last 11 years. And to be quite honest, I didn't know. All I could do is I could recite the one time I remember not winning one in recent times, because that still haunts me. But I have no idea where we stand on that. I haven't compared us to other teams, and we just keep trying to plug along and keep consistency in our program and maintain a culture that allows us to compete at a pretty high level.
He is officially the record holder. No one has ever gotten 7 straight sectionals in the history of the Summit Athletic Conference. I'll say it. I don't care. Rod, congrats and best of luck. Be pulling for you. And, of course, it's going to be nice at the regional. You only have to play one game, but you also have 2 teams from Fort Wayne that will both be there. So hopefully a lot of the Summit City gets to Marion and sports both the Snider Panthers in Game 1 and the Homestead Spartans in Game 2, 7 o'clock. What a challenge. This is what high school basketball should be, and it'll be a lot of fun down there in Marion.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yep, that's Rod Parker joining us here on the Sports Rush. These are the games that make the tournament special when you have 25-0 against 24-2. They really shouldn't be meeting in a regional. You'd like to see it more as a semi-state championship, but
that's the way things cookie crumbles.
The way it falls, and so you gotta beat whoever's next on your schedule. It's win in advance, and Homestead's just so deep with Maya Epps and of course Gabby Helsum, who's been terrific here in the last month of the season. And don't discount, Carly Mollering missed like a month of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when I talked to Rod Parker, and it was right when she had gotten hurt and was going to be missing time back in December. And, he said, she has played great for us, and it's going to be a huge loss, and it's going to be a lot for Delaney Knoll, the freshman, to be able to step up and step into that situation, because you probably can't duplicate what Carly was doing. But those extra minutes going to Delaney Knoll and allowing her to develop with extra time and extra reps because of that injury, that then when Carly Mollering did come back to the lineup, it's made Homestead a better team, because now Delaney Knoll's been a great contributor to them as well. So it's, you've got Whitney Ankenbrook. I mean, you can go on and on. This lineup really top to bottom just loaded with talent. And they've got a shot. The concern for me is, can they handle the size of Hamilton Southeastern? Because Homestead overall, not a big team. And then you take Helsum, and she may have to guard someone around the basket that, potentially you could have somebody get into foul trouble, and you've got to avoid that. So I think it's going to be a tough test, but I think it's one that Homestead could pass. And so it'll be a heck of a basketball game coming up on Saturday night in the Class 4A Regional.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Speaking of basketball and big games coming up, we mentioned that the Indiana Pacers are at home tonight. They're going to be taking on my New York Knicks. And a friend of the show, Tony East, who's been on the show multiple times, about 4 or 5 minutes ago, posted a video of Jahlil Okafor warming up for his first game with the Pacers. Of course, he signed a 10-day contract. That's not the important part, though. The important part is that he said, also need to point out that this is Miles Turner's normal warm-up slot, and he's not on the floor. They will hear from Rick Carlisle momentarily, so keeping an eye on Miles Turner ahead of tonight's game.
Well, and so Jahlil Okafor might actually
get some serious minutes against the likes of Karl Anthony Towns. So.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Big matchup tonight for
him.
Welcome
to the NBA.
That's we'll follow along with that as we get closer to that game tonight.
And, of course, college basketball tonight with the Purdue Boilermakers taking on the Michigan Wolverines. Of course, Michigan wants to get back for that shellacking they took at Mackey Arena.
Yeah, they caught the brunt of Purdue's force after they lost that Ohio State game.
And Purdue kind of rode a wave. It's like they caught the perfect wave and they rode it and built a big lead against Michigan, and Michigan just kind of wilted and lost their will at that point because the Mackey Arena crowd was going crazy. Purdue was hitting all kinds of shots. And I think it'll be a little bit of a different game, but I do think that Purdue can get the win over Michigan and hold on to first place in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and then as far as the other Indiana team going up to Michigan tonight to take on Michigan State, what do we feel about that one?
Well, I feel like Michigan State plays really well at home, and Indiana's going to have their hands full. I mean, it's a team that's just not coached well enough to beat a Tom Izzo coach team. Now, here's the thing, and we mentioned this before, and of course Don Fisher brought it up. Tom Izzo tied the all-time Big Ten wins record with the win on Saturday. And tonight, a chance to break it against the team that was coached by the person who holds the record, Bobby Knight.
Man, that's still crazy. I can't believe that that's just the way things line up. I mean, does that provide any motivation for the Hoosiers? Hey, we can't let Izzo get Knight's record against that.
I don't
know what any motivation they have at this point.
I don't know what motivates the Hoosiers, to be honest with you. I
can tell you from
they've had big, the Illinois game at the time was considered a big game, and they didn't show up. And then they basically were quitting on plays at home in the first half of a game against Illinois. And that's really where I think the downfall of Mike Woodson truly began. Now, I mean, obviously last year there was talk whether or not he was the right guy, and I think you'd have to evaluate it after the season the same way. But I think the only reason we know as of today that Mike Woodson is not returning next year is because Illinois happened, and it started kind of a chain reaction where Indiana has never recovered. And so those decisions were kind of made last week. Of course, Mike Woodson made the decision, wink, wink.
Yeah.
Know a little better there. But anyway, I'm not holding my breath expecting a Hoosier win in East Lansing.
Me neither.
Defending their former coach, who many of these guys never met, never knew because he had passed away.
Yeah.
260-447-8500. By the way, the Fever, they have a special night tonight at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. It's Fever night, and I know Lexi Hull, and I don't know, they've got like 3 players. Leah Boston, I think, is one.
Awesome.
And DeWanna Bonner.
Oh, there you go. More motivation for the Pacers.
They're going to be there signing autographs, in fact, very shortly for the fans that enter Gainbridge Fieldhouse tonight.
Awesome.
And we know that Caitlin Clark is in town. Will she make a surprise appearance tonight?
Oh, great.
To support. Yeah, one more thing.
More motivation for the Pacers.
Will she make a surprise appearance to support the hometown team? And, of course, her and Tyrese, who have become kind of buddies, representing each of their respective franchises. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. It's a Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Tony East has made it official that Miles Turner is not only out tonight, he'll be out through the All-Star break, according to Indiana Pacers head coach Rick Carlisle. Turner will not travel with the team tomorrow. All right, so there you go.
There's your show. No.
Feeling better, Adam?
I wish I was. I mean, like, you know me, I can find a way to be negative about going up against the Charlotte Hornets if I want to.
Well, it's a big week for the Mastodons. The men are on the road heading to Youngstown, Ohio. John Nolan has the call of Mastodons basketball coming up not only tomorrow against Youngstown State with a game that tips at 6:30. 6:15 will be the pregame show, but also on Saturday at Robert Morris. That game tips at 2 o'clock with the pregame show right here at 1:45. Women's basketball. It's a big week for them as well. They'll have their Pink Out weekend this weekend and Saturday with the Pink Out game against Cleveland State. That'll be a 2 o'clock tip at the Gates Center. Well, we've got Mastodon's Coaches Show coming up next, and it's an enjoyable show. We get to hear from not only John Kaufman and Maria Marquesano, but also a couple of players, including Fort Wayne's own Sydney Graber. And for the men, it's our first chance to visit with Chandler Cutrell. That comes up next, leading us to Purdue basketball against the Michigan Wolverines at 7. Big thanks to Dylan Sin for joining the show. Also, coaches Reggie Tharp and Rod Parker. That does it for a Tuesday edition of the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.